Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/am I the asshole for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my thoughts and opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Actual try 1272. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay for our friend's now broken iPhone and sunglasses that our son broke? I'm 28 female, and my husband is 32 male. Our son in question is 6 months old. Whenever someone holds him, we warn them that he'll try to grab your sunglasses or phone, and sometimes even your hair. We're trying to break this habit, but he is 6 months old. Now, I warned my husband that a friend of mine, 33 female, let's call her Jean, came to visit and wants to hold, which we don't mind at all. I warned her about it all, saying, "Oh, best taking your sunglasses off your head, he'll grab them." Now, these are Gucci sunglasses costing almost 800 pounds, which to me is a crazy amount for sunglasses, but each to their own. She rolled her eyes at me and accused me of hogging my own baby, shrug emoji. I warned her again. She said, "It's fine." So she stood, holding him, took her phone out, wanting to take a selfie, which again, I'm fine with as long as it's not posted. Don't want a pic of him online as of yet. He, of course, grabbed her sunglasses, got excited as he got them, waved his hands about the sunglasses, and they flew. She screamed, scaring him. He panicked and flailed, hitting her iPhone to the floor. I quickly took him as she was freaking out. She says I need to buy her a new iPhone 16 and replace her sunglasses, or give her the money for them, which is 2,300 pounds. I said we can't pay that, as that's not even my monthly wage. Plus, I'm on maternity, but also, I don't feel like I should, as you ignored my warnings. I'm called heartless for not being more understanding of her upset. I was more concerned with calming down my son. My husband just shrugged, telling her I did warn her. Edit to add, I fixed the issues since they were so triggering to people. Also, to those who thought an adult didn't write this, adults can have dyslexia. So, am I the asshole? I mean, you warned her. You told her what would happen if she didn't take her sunglasses off. She didn't take her sunglasses off. The exact thing that you warned her would happen happened. And it's not like this is a 6-year-old or like a 5-year-old. This is a 6-month-old. There is very limited cognitive ability within that noggin. I also really fail to see how this interaction could have just completely destroyed both of these items beyond repair. Like, you're not putting a case on your phone? Even if so, cracked screen repair is not going to be the cost of the phone. And additionally, if you're spending $800 on your sunglasses and when someone warns you, "Hey, this infant likes to grab them," and your response is, "Stop hogging your baby," anything that happens at that point in time is totally on you. Gold Touch 20. Am I the asshole for refusing to go to my brother's sister's wedding because of how she treated me when I was unemployed? I, 26 female, have been dating my boyfriend Dan, 30 male, for 3 years. For the most part, things have been great between us. He's kind, supportive, and we live together in a rented apartment while saving for a house. Last year, I got laid off due to budget cuts at my company. I work in marketing, and it took me a few months to land something new. During that time, I was unemployed, freelancing here and there, and being careful with money. Dan was incredibly supportive and reassured me constantly that we will be okay. The issue came from his sister Megan. I met her a few times before the layoff, and we got along all right. Not besties, but polite. But during my unemployment, she completely changed her attitude towards me. She started making comments like, "Must be nice to sit around all day while the rest of us work. So are you even trying to find a job or just living off Dan? Dan's too nice, he needs someone more stable." She said these things in front of others, including Dan, who usually just brushed it off like that's just how Megan jokes. I asked him several times to talk to her about it, but he kept saying he didn't want to start drama. So I started to pull back from family events to avoid her. Anyway, I found a new job a few months later. Good pay, full-time, remote, all good news. Megan never acknowledged it or apologized. Fast forward to this summer, Megan is getting married in October and sent us an invitation. Dan assumed we'd go, but I told him I wasn't comfortable attending. I said I don't want to sit through a day of someone who was cruel to me during a hard time and never showed any remorse. Dan thinks I'm being petty and says it's one day, and for the sake of family, can you just let it go? He said it reflects poorly on him if I don't show up. And now Megan is telling everyone I'm self-centered to support family milestones. I told him he's free to go, but I'm not going. Now he's acting distant and says he's disappointed in me. So, am I the asshole for refusing to go to my boyfriend's sister's wedding because of how she treated me while I was unemployed? So he's kind and supportive, but not kind and supportive enough to stand up for you to his sister. Like, there are two problems here, and in my opinion, OP's not one of them. This is someone who swung at you during your lowest point in your life, and even after you got back on your feet and proved their suspicions incorrect, they refused to apologize or to even acknowledge the fact that their words could have been cruel to you. Hell, no one is acknowledging that fact. In fact, OP is being labeled as petty for feeling hurt by those words. If he's worried about things reflecting poorly on him, then I wonder how he'll feel when people find out that the reason why he's single is because he refused to stand up for his girlfriend. OP needs to have a serious conversation with her boyfriend about the future, and if he actually wants a future, then he needs to understand that he hurt his girlfriend by choosing the side that he chose, by pretty much labeling her feelings as being petty. Hell, I would be worried that this is just how that family behaves, that you're expected to just tolerate their poor behavior. And don't you dare voice your grievances, because that'll look bad on your boyfriend. I would sit down and have a serious conversation and spell out exactly why you're upset and why this behavior is not going to be tolerated in the relationship. And if he wants to stick with his guns and not even acknowledge the fact that his sister's behavior hurt you, then he can go to the wedding single. Tasty Log 3307. Am I the asshole for asking my girlfriend to dress more sensibly on a walk? My girlfriend and I, both 30, go on this trail by the river sometimes. It is about an hour each way, and most people are in casual or sporty clothes. The first few times we did it, she wore a maxi skirt and high heels, and I felt like it was really out of place. I told her after the last time that the next time she should dress more sensibly. She claimed it was fine, but it really is out of place, and even if she won't admit it, she definitely struggles, particularly at the end of the trail where it is not paved. Everyone looks at her, and she even gets a few comments, especially about the shoes, so I wonder if she does it for attention. We went again recently, and she showed up in the same type of outfit. Long skirt, heels clicking on the ground, makeup done like we were going to dinner instead of a walk. I felt embarrassed walking next to her because everyone else was in athletic clothes, and she stood out. I reminded her that I had already asked her not to dress like that for this specific activity. She told me I was being controlling, and that she can wear whatever she wants. I feel like she's deliberately ignoring what I said, but at the same time, I do not think it is unreasonable to expect her to fit the setting. Am I the asshole for saying something? It's one thing to recommend that she wears something else out of fear that she might roll an ankle, or might end up in a position where she's uncomfortable during the walk, but it's another thing to recommend that she wears something else because it's embarrassing you. She's a big girl. You're in your 30s. You guys have been on that walk before. If she has been on that walk and can comfortably say, yeah, you know what? The clothes I wore last time, I like that. I had a good time. I'm going to do that again. It wasn't that big of a deal. Then she should be allowed to do so. At the end of the day, and this is more of just a general thing for social anxiety that's really helped me, you will go home with your girlfriend. You will not go home with the people you pass by on the walk. Who the fuck cares what they think? You're never gonna meet that person again in your entire life. Why should their opinion matter? But what I also want to talk about are the two little bits of wording here that OP stated that kind of make me wonder if he has different intentions or different frustrations with this post. Such as, I feel like she's deliberately ignoring what I said. And I reminded her that I already asked her not to dress like that for this specific activity. Sounds like you're kinda saying the quiet part at a moderate conversation level of volume. Not quite out loud, because you're not being fully upfront with it, but it sounds like you're getting pretty close to there. Cherry Oatmeal. Am I the asshole for not changing my annual backyard party plans for my boyfriend and his kids? I, 42 female, have been hosting an end-of-summer party with my neighbors for years. It's always the same setup. Adults and kids welcome. We celebrate together, and at some point, The kids go to sleep while the adults continue the evening. This year's plan was the same. I was going to bring my kids, 6 and 10-year-old, inside to sleep at our home, which is right next to the backyard. From the balcony, there is both audio and visual access to the yard, and my kids also have a phone they can use to call me if needed. After putting them to bed, I plan to go back to the backyard for a little while longer to enjoy the evening with friends. I invited my boyfriend of 6 months, 46 male, and his kids, 5 and 7 years old, to join us. He declined, saying he didn't feel comfortable leaving his kids to sleep at my place since they hadn't stayed there before. He also didn't like the idea of putting them to bed at my place while he stayed outside with me, or going to bed with them while I stayed outside. I told him I understood completely, and I didn't have a problem with him choosing not to come, but then he got upset and said that he and his kids weren't actually welcome at the party because of the way the party was set up. I explained that this party has been running for years with the same format, and it's not really something I can or want to change for one guest. My view is that guests can decide if the event works for them, and if not, they don't have to come. In his opinion, I should have left the party with him and our kids when it was bedtime. On top of that, during the party, I didn't have time to call him because I wanted to focus on my guests and enjoy the evening. He was very hurt by this too, saying I should have made time. This all turned into a big argument, so am I the asshole for not changing the setup of a tradition and for not calling during the party to accommodate my boyfriend and his kids? So let me just get this straight. You got a boyfriend of 6 months. You have a tradition you've been doing for years. He wants you to change the tradition to adjust towards him. He doesn't want his kids staying the night there, and he also doesn't want the party continuing after the kids go to bed. When he leaves with his kids, party's over, and he wants you to accommodate to this. You being unwilling to accommodate, he feels like he's now no longer welcome to be a part of it. And then on top of that, while the party's occurring and you have guests over, he expects you to call him. This to me feels like someone who's very used to having a lot of control and doesn't like the fact that he doesn't right now. That's just the personal vibe I'm getting, but that aside, definitely not the asshole. This isn't you not welcoming him to the party. This is you having a set tradition, which you explained to him not liking the arrangement of said tradition, wanting to make changes to it, and unhappy with the fact that those changes aren't being implemented. Definitely not the asshole. From a deleted user. Am I the asshole for giving up my roommate's cat for adoption? I, 21 male, live with my roommate, 22 male, in a fairly small apartment. Shortly after he moved into the apartment, he came home one day with a small cat he had found on the street. At first, I didn't have any problem with it. But 3 weeks later, he stopped caring about it. From time to time, he would close the door to his room and leave the cat outside because the cat was supposedly too annoying. He also forgot to feed it often, and I was the one doing it most of the time. The last straw was when one day, while I was out, he locked the poor cat in my room because it was bothering him. And when I came back, the cat had scratched my desk and chair. I had enough. I didn't sign up for this. So, the next day, I grabbed the cat, went to the nearest animal shelter, and gave it up for adoption. The next day, he asked about the cat. He hadn't even noticed it was gone for a full day. And when I told him what I had done, he got furious, and he won't speak to me. Am I the asshole? Edit, multiple times before, I've told him that I should not be the one feeding the cat he brought home. Also, when he first brought the cat home, I told him very clearly that I didn't want a pet, and that if he decided to keep it, it would be his responsibility and his responsibility only. Despite the title, I'm definitely in favor of OP being not the asshole. They don't want a pet. They're not on board for that 10+ year commitment of having one. But they also have the heart to recognize that the roommate was being neglectful as fuck, and this was not an environment for a cat to be raised in. And if it took a full day for the roommate to even realize the cat was gone, yeah, cat shouldn't be there. He is most certainly not ready for that responsibility. And if OP wasn't there to take care of that cat, and if OP hadn't brought it to the shelter, or if OP had just simply moved out in response and removed themselves from the situation, that cat would have starved to death. The only thing that would make OP the asshole in my eyes in this scenario is if they did not verify if whether or not the shelter was a kill shelter or not. If they just blindly took it to any shelter and didn't do their homework, then they would definitely fall into an asshole category, and this would be an everyone sucks here. But in this situation, that cat's life was in danger because of the roommate's neglect. And OP wasn't on board with that responsibility. I love cats. I love dogs. But it is unrealistic and unfair to expect anyone to be ready for that 10+ year commitment. Some people are, some people are not. OP addressed this with his roommate multiple times. Brought up the fact that it is not his responsibility to be the one feeding the cat. He's the one who brought it home. Then the roommate begins locking the cat in OP's room and it begins causing damage to his property. I don't know what else OP could have done in this situation because it'd be really difficult for them to rehome the cat without the roommate intervening and keeping the cat in the environment where they are constantly being neglected. I do want to look at this quick comment conversation here, which does express a few of my points, but also does bring up a few areas which I may have glossed over. User IAA101 comments, I'm so surprised by the "you're the asshole" comments here. Are you guys for real? If OP is telling the story as it really happened, the flatmate was literally neglecting his cat, which is abuse. If he wasn't feeding it and leaving OP to be responsible for it, we can't even consider him to be an owner. Someone even said that OP should have rather moved out. So what? The cat could starve to death alone? OP did the right thing. I don't see the point in discussing it with the so-called owner beforehand when he didn't even care enough to make sure his own cat was fed and didn't even notice immediately when it was no longer in the apartment. If people here are concerned about the legal ramifications of surrendering, edited, someone's pet without their permission, that's understandable, but it still doesn't make OP the asshole. Morally, the only person who's wrong here is the neglectful roommate. Mediocre Spice comments, OP didn't rehome the cat, he surrendered at a shelter. It's hard to say if it's the right thing unless we know what happened to the cat. IAA101 responds, you're absolutely right. They surrendered it, not rehomed it. My mistake. And you're also right that we don't know if the cat will be alright in the end or if it'll be euthanized, but I don't understand what people expected OP to do when they never signed up to be responsible for a pet. Would it be better to just leave the cat with its owner who wasn't keeping it properly fed and didn't want to engage with it? At least now the cat has a chance at a better life. If it will be euthanized, I believe, and this might be controversial, but I stand by it, that's still a better fate than slowly starving to death and being neglected by the flatmate who is supposed to take care of it. I genuinely don't know what else the roommate could have done in this instance. So please, if you're in the comments and you do have the solution at hand, do not hesitate to comment it, because that kind of information could be very useful to anyone else who might find themselves in a situation like this. And hey, maybe your advice might actually help guide them onto the right path in the future. Skinny Perfection. Am I the asshole for being unsupportive of my friend's career change? $216K in loans plus interest to be an actor. Yes, you read that right. Background. My friend has a bachelor's degree in health information management. She quit her $70K job last month and took out loans to go to a private school for acting that costs $54K a year. The argument. When she first told me this, I busted out laughing because I thought she was joking. She then went into detail, showing me the school, some of the school events she attended already, and some people she's met also going to the school. I then realized she was very serious, and I got extremely upset. I said, "Are you aware that you still live at home with your mom, who is a single parent of 3? As the oldest daughter, instead of moving out and lightening her financial burden, you just quit your $70K job to pursue a 4-year degree in drama that in total will cost you $216K. Keep in mind, I'm being nice because she took out a loan. Therefore, it will be well over $216K, being that it'll accrue interest." Quote, "What you're doing is extremely selfish. You went from making $50K last year to $70K this year. You're finally progressing in your field and finally making enough to manage on your own. And now, you're dropping this bomb on your mother's lap? You're 27 and just quit your job to freeload on your mother, who is a janitor, for another 4 years so you can pursue acting? Acting is not a lucrative field. It's not about a degree, it's about who you know in the industry. Why don't you get your old job back, network, and pursue this on the side as a hobby until it hits off? She was very upset by my response and called me unsupportive, negative, and wished she never told me and stormed off. We haven't spoken in 2 days. I just think what she's doing is wrong and selfish. In this economy, you quit your $70K job to pursue acting, asking your very poor mom to financially support you for the next 4 years? Like, what? Maybe the way I said it, I could have said it more nicely. I was just in total shock, being that she's older than me. I would assume that she'd be more smarter in regard to finances, but here she is, gambling her entire life. Honestly, I think the brutal honesty here in this situation was needed. I would say just initially either not the asshole or a justified asshole. If she was living on her own, had enough finances to cover her own expenses and chose to do this, it would be an entirely different story. But the fact that she's with her mom and choosing to financially continue to live with her, and my guess would be is the mom is probably going to pay for her expenses, her meals, and all that kind of stuff, it's not fair. And OP gave them a reality check. And the thing is, yeah, OP is right. Acting is a pain in the ass to make money in. Pretty much 90% of it is networking and having the right connections to make sure you can actually get into the field where you want to. OP was being an actual friend and was brutally honest. It's not fun to hear, but sometimes that's what you need. Sure, the delivery may have been harsh and could have been easier or softer, but the friend's decision doesn't just affect themselves, it's affecting everyone in their family. And that's why I think OP's right to give them a reality check. If this was a situation where OP's friend was financially secure, they weren't burdening anyone but themselves and they chose to pursue this, that is an entirely different story. But that's not the case here. Chaotic Darlin. Am I the asshole for requiring my sister to reimburse me and for telling my family not to give her money to do so? For context, my, female 25, older sister, female 29, we'll call her Mary, is currently unemployed, although she has a part-time job at her son's school during the school year, and she lives with our older aunt rent-free. The few bills that are under her name, like her phone bill, are paid by my parents. My nephew's father, male 31, call him Jacob, also has full custody and pays all of the expenses related to their son. She does not pay child support as she does not bring in enough money. For the long weekend, I went camping at the same campground that Jacob has a seasonal site at for him and my nephew. Mary also frequently joins them out there for the weekend. It is a nice campground and a smaller one, without any rowdy college kids getting loud at 3 a.m. So my friends and I decide to book our own site for the weekend. I brought my, fairly new, fairly expensive for a 25-year-old, paddleboard out with me and had it tied to a tree near the shoreline with all the other paddleboards, kayaks, large inflatables, as is common practice at this lake. It's a tight-knit community where people know each other and are generally respectful of other people's belongings. Well, yesterday, me and my friends went hiking in the morning and were gone for about 4 hours. When we got back, Mary approaches me, asking if I'm planning on going to the beach soon, and if I was planning on using my board. I told her, yes. And she goes, well, about that. And then proceeds to explain that she took my board out, dropped the paddle, and that it sunk, and there was no way to get it. Although she still had the handle of it. So my best guess is that since she was shorter than me, and the paddle was adjustable, she had changed the height and failed to properly lock the handle back into place, so it slipped out. I asked why she took the board without permission, and she explained that she came to our site to ask, but we weren't there, so she just assumed it was fine and did it anyway. I asked if she would have let her 8-year-old son take someone else's property without asking, and if not, why she didn't hold herself to that same standard, and was met with a blank stare. At this point, she offered to buy me a new paddle as a Christmas gift, and I replied that I would order a replacement paddle from the company and tell her how much it costs, and that she should expect it to be around $70. But I wasn't sure yet, as I couldn't look it up right away. and that I expected her to pay me back once she's working her part-time job again. I might be the asshole simply for that, but I also took it a step beyond and contacted our parents and the older aunt that she lives with and asked that they not give her money for this purpose, as I want the reimbursement to come from her, not from them, and that I was fine waiting a month for the money, but I wanted her to be the one facing this consequence. But now she's acting like I'm being intentionally cruel, and I'm starting to feel like I went too far. Did I? Update, I guess. Thank you everyone for your input. I have read every comment and done my best to internalize each one, although admittedly there are a few that I am still struggling to understand. As an low support needs autistic person, there are things I struggle with, always have, and work every day to improve. One of those things, for example, is that I tend to see the world in a very black and white way, right or wrong, and I tend to hyperfixate on what I feel is the right solution to a conflict. In this case, my sister paying me back with her money rather than someone else's. And I realized through reading the comments that this was more of a gray area. I was holding my sister to standards I set for myself, and that wasn't fair. I also definitely overstepped, as, again, many of you pointed out, it's not really my business where the money comes from. I've already reached out and apologized to my family for that overstep. God, I hate Reddit. I also recognize what a lot of you were saying about me trying to parent my sister and teach her a lesson, and how it's not my job or my responsibility, and again, you guys are right. Another thing I struggle with is context and tone. I provided the context I did regarding her financial and housing situation with the intention of showing my thought process on expecting her to pay me back. And by that, I mean that my primary considerations were if it would impact her ability to have stable housing, food on the table, care for her son, or pay her bills. I recognize that the impact of my tone was pretentious and judgmental, which matters more than my intention, and I apologize for that. Basically, in the end, I am going to still expect her to pay me back for the paddle, whatever I end up paying, up to a maximum of the cost of replacing the exact paddle she lost. I am looking online for secondhand paddles to hopefully get something cheaper, because unfortunately, $70, closer to $60 actually, I had a chance to look online, but you get my point I hope, is not a cost I can just casually toss around without it having an impact on my budget for the month. Anyways, again, thank you all for your input. I hope to use this as a learning experience to help me improve my reactions in the future. Thank you. So the reason why I commented that I hate Reddit is the fact that, it's obvious OP's sister just has gotten away with this shit for so long, and pretty much is able to use anyone and anybody as a scapegoat or some kind of way to toss the financial responsibility onto another person. She just literally doesn't care. And the fact being that, yeah, OP was right to ask, hey, would you let your 8-year-old son do this? No? Then why are you doing this? That's a pretty fucking valid question to ask your 29-year-old sister. Her behavior is a direct result from the fact that she just gets away with it, constantly. OP wants to hold her sister accountable, and Reddit responds with agreeing with the family, no, your sister should be allowed to ask family members for money to pay you back. I mean, hell, just look at the way that she approached, the whole situation. When OP came back from the hike/walk they were on, it wasn't, hey, I fucked up and accidentally sank your paddle. It was, you're not planning on going to the beach today, are you? Well, while you were gone, I may have accidentally lost your paddle because I came here to ask if I could use it, you weren't here, so I used it, and it's now gone. Also, according to OP, when people ask, there is no medical reason why her sister cannot work. So while this one has the rating of everyone sucks here, despite the comments being pretty split between everyone sucks here and not the asshole, I'm in the not the asshole boat. Because it would really suck to have someone take something of yours without permission, then break it, and their first response is, well, I'll just buy you a new one for Christmas. Okay, that sucks. Ordinary delight. Am I the asshole for setting communication boundaries with my ex-wife? I called out my ex-wife in front of my son's teacher and school admin. She sent an email to everyone stating I would be dropping off some medical forms and medication at school on a particular day, which I didn't agree to. So I responded all and asked her not to speak on my behalf or intervene further, and that I would provide the information when able. She then flipped out, sending me a private message saying how embarrassed I must be for losing it in front of school staff. Am I the asshole for setting a boundary regarding her speaking for me? I just want to make sure here, you two are adults, right? Because both of you suck here. OP, definitely more so than the ex-wife, by the way, because she was at least sensible enough to bring your fight into private rather than pressing reply all and dragging the entire school admin into it. I'm guessing that it was your responsibility because you're the only person who has access to those medical forms and medication. And even if that's not the case, you could have just simply responded with something along the lines of, "I'm sorry, but there's been a miscommunication. I'm not available on this day. Instead, I would be free on these days." Set the boundaries with your ex-wife in private, dude. What are you doing pressing reply all? That is embarrassing on you. And not to mention, just one more time, these are medical forms for your child. These are important. You two should be communicating together on this. She should be confirming information with you before sending it to the entire school admin, and you definitely shouldn't be pressing reply all to set boundaries regarding her speaking for me. To the entire school staff, grow up. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.